Okay, for purposes of the recording, this recording is not the property of the county. The county plays no part in the recording of this session. The contents of the session are solely the responsibility of the recorder. And if anyone needs a copy of this, they should go to the recorder because the county does not maintain a copy of the recording. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to be fairly quick here today. I'm not going to bore you, Karen, with reading through all the counters. One of the biggest things that we wanted to discuss this morning is the wage article. Mm-hmm. So through much debate on our side, obviously we've proposed a step scale. The county has proposed kind of maintaining the current wage structure format as far as a starting wage, a midpoint, and a maximum, and then the merit-based raises. So we wanted to ask a question. Our main goal with creating a step scale was to spread out the compression issue that we see amongst the wages. And obviously the easiest way to do that is through a step scale. Our proposal this morning, and the question we wanted to ask you is, would the county be amenable to at least reviewing if we said we would work with the county in maintaining the current format of the low, mid, high range and EPE section, if we could add a proposed one-time compression adjustment to our proposal, because that would get us where we think we would need to be. It would eliminate the need to propose a step scale. We could kind of work within the current parameters of the wages.
First of all, we'll entertain any proposal that you put forth. I'm not sure the nature of the exact nature of the compression issue that you want to address. The county did attempt to address that by market placement. So we may be saying the same thing in a different way. But certainly if you are willing to put something forward, of course we'll entertain that and see where we are.
Yeah, no, and we view it kind of as two things. Obviously, just to be competitive and to deal with recruitment, we're looking at the proposed wages by the county, our own proposed wages. I don't know if we're horribly far off. I think that's an easy enough thing to kind of go back and forth with. And then the other part is the retention, and that is just because of the way that once the union got in there and we adjusted wages, and then through the last few years with increases and whatnot, the members certainly feel there's some compression amongst new hires versus people with 5, 6, 7 years. So again, that was the initial proposal to have a step scale, was to divide that out and make sure that compression didn't continue to happen. But in an effort to try to move things along, again, if we can give some consideration to adding a compression adjustment and then working within the confines of the existing pay structures, just want to make sure that that was something that you were willing to entertain.
As I said, we'll entertain any proposal that the union puts forth. The only thing I can do is analyze it afterwards and see if it's cost effective and feasible for us to implement something like that. And we'd of course reserve the right to revise it and propose a counteroffer. But please feel free to suggest it. If we think that can advance the ball, we're happy to listen to it.
Okay. And then we did look into Article 23, which is grievance and arbitration. We agreed that we had no proposal there. The county has no proposal, so we can consider that just settled at current contract language.
Okay.
I will, once we hang up, send over Articles 8 and 18 signed for us. Those were TAs.
Okay,
Got those done. And then if you want, I'll just kind of quickly walk through the counters that I will send to you again once we hang up.
okay.
So let me you want someone can enable the screen sharing? There we go. Okay, so again, I'm just going to kind of go through these quickly, Karen. I'm not going to read them. Article 1, we've just maintained our position with the community paramedics. I think that was the only thing in debate there. Article 3 is the union representation. So what we've done here is we've said, okay, we'll accept that the 100 hours is member donated. One position we added because it's an elected position is the chief shop steward. So that is the official union executive board. And then what we were looking for is, again, if it is member hours only that are put into this fund, because some years may be busier than others per se, that we be allowed to roll over from a year to year, but not to exceed 200 hours. So I think those are the only two things that were still in contention there. Article 4. That was the dues deduction. We were fine with A and C. And that is, I think it's kind of stating the obvious, but that's fine. We'll accept it. Here, I think that was too broad. Participated in, supported. I mean, we have a no strike clause, I believe, in the contract. No strike, no lockout. So I don't know if that is necessary there. And I don't want it to be misconstrued by any means by saying we supported anything and now we're going to shut off dues deductions for everybody. So just clean that up a little bit. You had made a request to change that to human resource. That was fine. That was withdrawn. So that's all there is there.
Hold on one second, Scott. There was one, go back to that. And this is more on going to probably be on your side, Karen, because you guys want human resources up there, but then there's several mentions of payroll down here in the other sections. So I don't know if that should all say human resources, that should all say payroll, but you do mention payroll several times in the other sections, but then change it to human resources up there.
I think right here is where he's referring to, Karen. Down in 3 and 4, it talks about reasonable notice to the payroll division.
I think one will be one way and one I have to check with the team to see whether that would be a different way. But certainly any kind of an audit to inspect records is different from giving us the forms. The records inspection would be a broader thing that would be delivered to payroll because the HR department wouldn't have the payroll records, the official payroll records. We just want the notice to make sure that we get it to the right people. The 1 and 4, I'll just check with the team and see.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't like contradictory.
Yeah.
That's all.
Right. Yeah, because up here, you want to go to the human resource department to submit the dues authorization and then to retract it. It still mentions to payroll division. So I think it's 4 that would be the one in question.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's correct. That would be the question. 3, I believe is correct, but we'll check on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Article 5, again, this was the one that was labeled 5 but came across to 7. So instead of just bugging you to give it to me because it's only this, and again, that's just maintaining our position on having some access to the members. Again, I submit it for your consideration. We're willing to, if there's something that the chief can think of that gets us where we kind of need to be, somewhere in the middle, either through notification of new hires and contact information, or letting us know when the day is and seeing if we can catch the people while they're still there or something. But right now it's very difficult to track these people down because we have no notification of when they're in and training. So again, we'll maintain our position until hopefully we can find something that we can both agree upon. Article 6. That's probation. So what we did here, Karen, was kind of split the baby. So we'll do the 12 months, we'll drop the hours. And then down here, we want to maintain the 6 months. So I think that gets you kind of where you want to be up here, where the hours don't count. Still maintains the 12 months. And then down here, again, we're talking about people that have left and come back within a year. I can't find anything to justify in my mind why we would need another 12-month probation on an employee that's been gone for less than a year. So we would want to maintain 6 here, again, dropping the hour requirements and having the full 6 months and the full 12 months in section 1. Business days were fine there. So that is 6. Article 7. And that is seniority. And again, I think that all just went around the terminology. And again, we're maintaining.
Stems from Article 2, I think, right?
Yes. Article 10. So this was one that I went back to our original proposal on, Karen. I think we were all in agreement with here, so that wasn't an issue. This was more of a housekeeping strikeout because it had to deal with the initial, the initial contract. So you can review that. I don't think it's relevant anymore to the current contract. And we couldn't edit the one that you had sent to us, which made it increasingly difficult. And then there were numerous questions about things being there still, but put in different places, which weren't tracked, and it made it very difficult to try to get everything in order. So I would request, if it's possible, that you work from this document. I mean, like we had put something in here, just as an example. I think the language in where was it? Like G, that was in your proposal moved up to B, and it just kind of dropped everything down. And I wasn't sure if there was a particular reason for that, but it again wasn't tracked. So it became now an issue to try to figure out if I was missing something or whatnot. So if when all is said and done, we think there's some reason to kind of renumber them once the language is agreed upon, I have no issue with that if you think it flows better somewhere. But for everyone's purpose now and trying to get to an agreement on the language, if we could leave it as such and then we can renumber if it makes everyone happier. So that is that article. Article 17. That's the health retirement. Again, this is something that is available to the members. They can voluntarily contribute to it. Still, we're looking at some matching funds from the county, so we maintain our position on that. Article 20. Okay, and this was again another one that I think just because we've gone back and forth so many times with it, that the tracking changes is increasingly harder to do. We do want to maintain our position on this, but you will be happy to know I did strike out the station key.
And I thank you for that.
We've conceded. Okay. Article 11, I skipped over, and again, that's just because that, I think it's 11 through 15 were combined into the one. We still just want to maintain the current contract language on those, keep them as independent articles. And I've told you 1,000 times why, so I won't beat that to death. Then 30 is just the duration clause.
Mhm.
So we just wanted that to be continued off of the expiration of the current contract. And we talked about the wages. The last one, I think, oh, no, Article 25, Karen. This is the only one that we really had some difficulty with being able to understand. And I tried to do it myself. And if you can see here, when I see, if I look at the final, it does nothing. If I just accept all the changes, it does nothing. What we were requesting, and it shouldn't take long because I think we're really close on this one. Can you do a mock-up of what the accepted language would look like? We don't mind comparing it.
Back a clean document.
Yeah, just a clean document. We think everything's okay, but we kind of get lost in the edits. So we can turn that around quickly. I can, if you send it over today, when I send over the whole package, we can probably have it included back, but I think we're close here.
Okay.
And then the last one that we hadn't talked about, and that's Article 27. That's the damaged equipment. Again, we just maintain rejecting that language. And I think
and I appreciate that, Scott, but and while we might not need an entire article on it, we do need language in the contract. There have been some significant issues that we need to address. So just keep that in mind if you see it back in a different form from us.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, we'll certainly look at anything. I think what's there is very broad and basically puts the employee on the hook for any damage, anytime, anywhere, unless there's, unequivocal proof that, somebody broke into the ambulance and damaged something. And even then it could probably be put on the employee for not making sure they didn't put a guard on the ambulance. So, if there's malicious damage that the county can prove that somebody intentionally broke something, I think there's, language in the discipline article to allow you to discipline that person. And
I don't think, and our intention is not to make an employee necessarily responsible for what a third party does. And it isn't just malicious damage. It is negligence and willful just disregard for the property of the county. So it's a mixed bag of things.
Yeah, and do you have any examples of, is there specific equipment that seems to be damaged more frequently than other equipment?
I believe there is, and if I could turn it over to the chief, if you have a couple of examples, or if you would rather do that after a break, chief, but we've talked about specific instances.
Sure, I don't mind talking about it, and I see a lot of people on the call now that work every day, and I'm sure there's some individuals that see their partners or maybe themselves are treating equipment that is different than they would treat their personal items. I would also say that inside that article, there's a collaborative management and field employee partnership, more or less like a review board. It wasn't the intent that management or labor would be the one deciding the factor. It was a collaborative effort. But
and I understand that, Chief, but you know how that goes. So
yeah, okay, sure. And I would say that computers are getting damaged very frequently, and cardiac monitors are being thrown, things. So there's a difference between the cost of doing business and people being negligent to county equipment.
Right, and not putting you on the spot, Chief, but I mean, there's a big difference from somebody throwing a cardiac monitor to be malicious, or is it something that happens in the in the heat of a cardiac arrest and we're tossing the monitor on the stretcher and getting them to the ambulance and the monitor falls off or the tough book falls off, obviously not intentional, but someone's focused on a life versus a piece of equipment, that rapidly could be detrimental to someone's ability to service a person. I'm not making excuses for things being damaged, but I also don't want to see a paramedic paying $750 for a damaged monitor because, they were trying to do a tube or trying to get the person in the ambulance or any number of factors that it's truly an emergency. And again, it wasn't an intentional item, but now I'm giving up a week's pay to fix something that I had really no intent to damage. So.
And Scott, I think if you again, to the chief's point, if you look at the article as we drafted it, it actually breaks out levels of responsibility and using a committee to make that decision. So there are different levels of responsibility, and they are willful misconduct, and there's a definition, failure to take reasonable precaution, and extenuating circumstances. So in the examples you've given, Scott, I'm sure would be considered under the extenuating circumstances section, and then the Labor Management Committee would be the one. So it wouldn't be just meeting out on behalf of the county. There would be a review of those. Can
I ask something? Just a clarifying question from either you or the chief. So my question is, we have a disciplinary section in the policies, procedures, SOGs contract. Why is this just now coming up? Because if you're bringing up that it's willful negligence and all this, it's malice and that, those items should have been addressed previously, and I haven't seen a big track record of those items. I'm the rep for this area. I have not seen those items come across. So now all of a sudden, this is a huge issue that's been going on, but the county has failed to exercise their rights to discipline in those situations. So maybe there's actually not a big issue going on, and this is more of a, let's just see what we can throw in.
No, it's not that at all. In fact, what is a very reasoned approach, because rather than just jump on the bandwagon and start disciplining people willy-nilly, the county has taken a reasoned approach to this and say, okay, we're not going to just discipline people because they have broken equipment. What we're going to do is propose to the union a way with the union that we can come to a conclusion about what people will pay if equipment is lost, damaged, or stolen, and what the cause is. We're not just going to go right to discipline on our own. We're going to set out the standards. We're going to set out the requirements so everybody knows. So I think this is a very proactive process on the part of the county to think, how can we best work with the union to make sure that this problem doesn't continue without us just going right to some sort of discipline.
So one more follow-up question on this. Since this seems to be a thought-out process by the county, do you have some data to show that would back up the amount or rise of damaged equipment, how much the county has dealt with in the past year and a half, maybe any kind of number points that I can look at as feasible, data showing that this is actually an issue?
Well, what I can do is this. I don't have that data with me, but I will talk to the team and see what information we have already stored so that we can provide it to you, and I'll see what we can get to you.
And again, in regards to the committee, Karen, what I was kind of referring to is, so the Labor Management Committee will investigate and determine the level of responsibility, who lost or damaged equipment. The committee will make a recommendation to the EMS chief regarding, and just for clarifying, ultimately the chief makes a decision regardless of what the committee recommends, correct? That would be the intent.
In our proposal, that's what it says. That's why we gave you a red line proposal, because if there was some other counter offer other than we're just not interested, the negotiation process would be the place for the union to say, well, we don't maybe agree with the chief being the final decision maker, or perhaps he would, there's some parameters around the decision, because that's what I think I hear you saying. So certainly if that was your counter offer, we'd be happy to entertain that.
Okay. We will take that into consideration and take a second look at this for the sake of moving things along.
Scott, do you have a wage proposal to give to us, or are you going to send that separately, or how's that going to work?
I will have that. I'll get that over to you by Monday, Karen. In our discussion about maybe changing direction slightly, that just came up this morning, actually. So I do want to be able to give it the proper attention to work that out without rushing it. So my intent would be to have that over to you by Monday.
And that's fine, because I want to take a caucus, and I was just trying to figure out how much time we would need. So if there was anything else.
No, that's what we have for you today. We could take a caucus. I've got a break room opened up for us. We can go back to, and if you want to just shoot me an email when you're ready to come back.
We'll do that. And can you send what you presented so far over so we can work on those different items to send back to you?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. We'll see. Well, give us about an hour, okay?